Welcome to Connecting the Dots, the channel where we follow the breadcrumbs to predict where disruptions will take us. Elon Musk announced Macrohard, and immediately the internet fractured. Uber bulls painted an exciting future where parked Teslas are money printers and Tesla reaches a $100 trillion valuation. Perma-bears, however, dismissed it as nothing more than a stock pump. But both sides missed the real story, because Macrohard is neither fantasy nor magic. The engineering is real, and the potential is real. But there are huge roadblocks in Macrohard's way, and some of them, unfortunately, are big enough to stop Macrohard from becoming the behemoth we hoped it would be. However, that is not how the story ends, because deep inside Tesla's stable, they are currently building a Trojan Horse, and there's a massive engineering maneuver tucked right up their sleeve. Together, these two could flip the entire picture, not by winning the race people are watching, but by winning a very different race almost nobody is paying attention to. So, what exactly makes Macrohard unique? What are the roadblocks standing in its way? What is the Trojan horse in Tesla's stable? And can one engineering move really change the outcome of the entire digital worker race? In a few moments, we will find out. But first, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel if this happens early in the video. And patrons keep this channel going, so please consider supporting me on Patreon or on YouTube, where I'll share the analysis model behind this video in more detail. Now buckle up and get ready, because Macrohard is about to disrupt the very economics of labor, and disruptions are never boring. Chapter 1, the $100 trillion illusion. There's a lot of hype going on about Macrohard, so let's start by looking at the numbers some Uber bulls are throwing around. They see a total addressable market of billions of desk workers, and they assume Tesla will effortlessly capture it all. For example, one prominent YouTuber, drop your guesses in the comments below, modeled the bull case for this project as reaching, and I quote, a 20-year valuation of $120 to $200 trillion or more, claiming that owners get paid for idle time, aka free money. The demand for digital labor is indeed quasi-infinite. If an AI agent can do the work of a junior accountant at 1/10 the cost and 0 hours of sleep, corporate demand will be tremendous. And the same goes for just about every job a digital worker can perform on par with humans. But overall demand is just one part of the equation, as economics does not operate in a vacuum. To understand how this market will actually play out, we have to divide the landscape into two arenas: tasks where Tesla's Macrohard faces immediate, brutal competition, and tasks where Macrohard's unique technology gives them an early exclusive monopoly. Let's look at the competitive arena first.
This strategy of building a digital remote worker, co-worker replacement.
Yeah, which everyone's going to do, by the way, not just us.
Tesla is not the only company chasing this prize. Google, Microsoft, Anthropic, and OpenAI are pouring billions into agentic AI. When multiple massive tech giants offer a digital worker that can read a spreadsheet or process basic data entry, that specific tier of service eventually becomes a commodity. And the golden rule of economics is that in a highly competitive market, the price of a commodity always crashes towards the marginal cost of production. If a human worker earns $5,000 and a digital agent is completely equivalent, companies will gladly pay $1,000 a pop. But if a competing and equally good agent only costs $100 per unit, you know who's going to get the sales. For these repetitive mechanical tasks, a brutal software price war is inevitable. We will see a race to the bottom. If your investment thesis relies on Tesla maintaining infinite pricing power across the board, you are going to be deeply disappointed. But as we will see, not all digital agents are created equal. As we rapidly approach AGI, high-skilled digital workers will be far from a commodity, creating a completely different, highly lucrative battlefield. But what about the second arena? What about the specific, complex workflows where Tesla's unique visual agents have no early competition? We will break down exactly what those workflows are and why Microsoft can't touch them in the next chapter. But for now, assuming Tesla has that early technological monopoly, surely they can charge a massive premium and dominate there, right? The answer is yes. But the real question is whether, regardless of margin, Tesla can capture enough market share before the competition catches up. And that introduces a massive wall of enterprise friction. Some analysts assume deploying Macrohard will be as easy as an over-the-air update. For example, one YouTuber envisioned, and I quote, 75 million effective nodes the equivalent of 75 million digital humans operating on privately owned cars via a simple Tesla app. Sounds amazing, but a huge part of the TAM is business-to-business enterprise sales, and as an old song goes, it ain't easy. Tesla can certainly build a dedicated enterprise sales team, but their competitors already have them. Microsoft and Google have decades-long relationships with Fortune 500 companies and coveted preferred vendor status. There was an old saying in business, nobody gets fired for buying IBM. Or today, it's Microsoft. For a corporate executive, shifting their sensitive accounting or HR data to a brand new Tesla AI agent is a high-risk career decision. If the product works flawlessly, nobody gives that executive credit. They'll just assume Microsoft's version would have worked just as well. But if there is a bug, a data leak, or a bad result, their ass is on the line for what will be seen as risking the company's data on an automaker. AI is still in its infancy. Digital workers are trained on humans, and human workers are far from flawless, so mistakes are bound to happen. With humans, that's seen as personal. So if 1,000 workers perform well and one worker does a huge blooper, that worker can be ousted. But when 1,000 bots work well and one bot handles a task which results in a huge blooper, it's the guy who brought them in that gets ousted. I'm sure many of you would take the risk and choose the bots based on merit. Unfortunately, most managers are mediocre and climbed the corporate ladder by being risk-averse. As Sandy Munro lamented when describing corporate America, if it's good for the company and good for my career, it's good. And if it's bad for the company but good for my career, it's still good. But if it's good for the company and bad for my career, that just doesn't work. So on all jobs where Macrohard isn't the only player, too many decision makers would opt for the safer option. And this puts even jobs where Macrohard will start monopolistic at risk once competition starts entering these fields a couple of years downstream. There is a terrifying winner-takes-most dynamic. Companies might first adopt API-based agents from Microsoft or other mainstream players for simple tasks such as doing taxes. And once they are locked into that ecosystem, it becomes incredibly hard to switch them over to Tesla later, even if Tesla's visual agent is technically superior. History is full of these warnings where superior players got sidelined by mainstream ones. Lotus 123 and WordPerfect were superior early software products, but Microsoft Excel and Word became the global standard because of their distribution and enterprise lock-in. If competitors lock clients in first, Tesla could lose the war before they even finish lacing up their boots. Not to mention that adoption takes time, and while some companies will switch to digital workers very early, most companies will do this at least 2 years from now. By that time, competitors will show initial capabilities in many fields where Tesla's Macrohard will originally be unique. Most companies will buy the full suite from Google or Microsoft, and while many will surely buy it from Tesla, they have some huge proving to do to be a serious contender. I want to remind you that I'm no Elon hater and I'm not here to discourage you. I'm practically all in on Tesla, and as we'll start seeing from the next chapter, I'm hyper bullish about Macrohard myself. But I need my bullishness to rest on sound engineering and nuanced realities rather than just Elon is a genius and what a great idea this is. I've done the analysis and I'll put the full model out for patrons and channel members, so you can join in one of the links below and see. Back to the myth busting, we have to look at the strategic threat, and for that, we look at Nvidia. Nvidia's recent NemoClaw framework is creating an open marketplace where thousands of third-party developers can build highly specialized agents. They are arming the rebels and lowering barriers of entry. Tesla is going at it alone, and judging from previous experience, although the community expected for years they'll offer an app store in the car's UI, it seems that Tesla prefers going solo. This is the classic Android versus Apple dynamic, the open ecosystem versus the walled garden. But while Apple built their walled garden and dominated the smartphone market before Android caught up, Tesla doesn't have a head start in agentic AI. They are launching a potentially walled garden into a market where open ecosystem competitors already exist. So, the price of digital labor is destined to crash in a race to the bottom. Enterprise integration is a career-risking nightmare. Nvidia is arming the rebels, and private car participation will be physically bottlenecked. With all of that stacked against them, can Tesla actually win? The answer is yes. Deep inside Tesla's stables, they are building a Trojan Horse to bypass all of this. But to understand how it works, we first need to look at how the human brain actually processes information, and the alien tech Tesla built to mimic it. Chapter 2. System 1 meets System 2. To understand why Tesla's approach to agentic AI is so disruptive, we have to look outside of computer science and look at cognitive psychology, specifically the work of Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman. In his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman explains that the human brain operates using two distinct systems. System 1 is your autopilot. It is fast, intuitive, and reflexive. It's what lets you read a road sign, recognize a face, or instinctively move your mouse to click a pop-up window. It requires almost zero conscious effort. System 2 is your analytical brain. It is slow, calculating, and logical. You use System 2 when you are solving a complex math equation, planning a corporate strategy, or writing a highly technical piece of code. Currently, companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google are locked in a massive arms race to build the ultimate System 2. They are building massive centralized brains in the cloud. But when they try to make those brains do actual reflexive work on a computer screen, they run into a wall. A cloud-based brain has no idea what is actually happening inside third-party software, which a human worker would normally use, like Excel or TurboTax. To solve this, they either have to build complex API integrations to talk to the software's backend, or they take static screenshots of a desktop every few seconds and send them to the cloud to figure out what to do next. Reasoning from first principles, Tesla looked at this and realized it was incredibly inefficient. So Tesla and xAI literally built Kahneman's model in silicon. As Elon Musk explained, Digital Optimus is System 1 and Grok is System 2. Grok lives in the xAI cloud, running on massive clusters of mostly Nvidia GPUs. It acts as the manager. You give it a complex goal like generate a Q3 revenue report, and Grok uses its System 2 reasoning to break that down into a strategic plan. But Grok doesn't execute the plan. It hands the instructions down to Digital Optimus, which is running locally on the Tesla AI4 or AI5 chip sitting at the edge. Digital Optimus is System 1 and acts as the digital eyes and hands. This creates a revolutionary breakthrough known as the API-less UI. Because Digital Optimus relies on pixels in, commands out, it doesn't need a software developer to write custom API code to integrate it into a company's system. It simply looks at the screen, reads the pixels, and fires off keyboard and mouse commands exactly like a human worker would. And this creates a massive moat for Tesla. Because cloud competitors rely on APIs, they are mostly limited to automating modern cloud-connected software. If a local bank is running custom internal software from 1998, or if a logistics company relies on offline desktop applications, an API-based AI is completely blind and paralyzed. It cannot interface with the system. And this is where we have to talk about the video edge. When Elon announced this, he specifically noted that Digital Optimus is, and I quote, processing and actioning the past 5 seconds of real-time computer screen video. Analysts glossed right over the word video, but as an engineer I smiled, seeing Tesla flex against its competitors. Right now, without API, competing digital workers rely on static optical character recognition. They take a screenshot, read the text, click, and take another screenshot. But the modern digital world isn't static. What happens when a drop-down menu requires you to hover your mouse over it for a second before the options appear? A static screenshot agent gets stuck. What happens if an agent is monitoring a live, high-velocity financial trading dashboard or a server health monitor where the momentum of the changing numbers matters just as much as the numbers themselves? A static image is limited. What if it has to wait for a loading bar to finish? A screenshot agent blindly pings the system every 10 seconds. Digital Optimus processes a continuous 5-second video buffer. It sees motion, it sees hover states, it reacts the exact millisecond a loading bar completes. It doesn't just read the screen, it experiences the UI dynamically. And because it operates solely on pixels, it is universally compatible. It doesn't care if a bank is running a cutting-edge cloud app from 2026 or a localized dinosaur legacy system from 1996. If a human can sit at a desk and click it, Digital Optimus can automate it. But comparing a single-monitor desk worker to a self-driving car is actually a false equivalency. Remember, Tesla's AI chips were built to process 8 high-resolution, high-velocity cameras simultaneously. Reading one mostly static screen is child's play. Because of this, Digital Optimus can easily ingest a 4-monitor workstation. Imagine a broker running several screens, one with livestock quotes, another with company accounts, a third with text-based news, and a fourth streaming a live camera feed from a political event. Digital optimists can watch and cross-reference all of these unstructured streams in real time, reacting to unfiltered good or bad news without needing to integrate with a single piece of back-end software. Nobody else can do that. I want to share something that's become crucial in my online life: NordVPN. They're sponsoring this video, but I've been happily using them for years across all my devices. Normally, I'd say that NordVPN isn't just about security, but also about fun. It's like a digital passport that melts online borders, so you can access content from other countries and watch your home streaming services while traveling. So that's normally, but the world is far from normal. A few years ago, a friend told me, always use a top VPN. The world is changing fast, and you have no idea how important your online footprint could soon become. She explained that ISPs and data brokers keep and sell records of your browsing history, and you don't want your data ending up with advertisers or scammers which use it for phishing and ransomware, so VPNs are always a good thing. And then she added, but society is changing. If one day a bad government comes to power, you don't want to regret visiting a perfectly normal website today without a good VPN encrypting your connection and keeping your activity private. She recommended NordVPN, which is fast, easy to use, and has a third-party audited no-logs policy, so they can't track what you do even if asked. Their RAM-based servers wipe data on every reboot, and features like double VPN add an extra layer of privacy when you want it. The world is heading into major disruptions, and disruptions bring instability and stricter rules. What's fine today might be banned tomorrow. So VPNs aren't just about watching blocked content or avoiding hackers. They're like insurance for your digital life against future risks, whatever they may be. To get the same protection I use, go to nordvpn.com/dots and get 4 extra months free on the 2-year plan, plus a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to nordvpn.com/dots and give it a try. You'll find that added peace of mind as valuable as I do. And here's the ultimate checkmate, which other companies simply don't have: the physical-digital hybrid. Microsoft, Anthropic, and Google are trapped inside the computer. They only have software. Tesla has an end-to-end physical ecosystem. Imagine a corporate workflow in the near future. Macrohard's digital worker is running in the background, auditing a massive retail database. It spots a discrepancy. The financial logs say there are 200 laptops in aisle 4 of the warehouse, but the Excel spreadsheet suggests there should be 220, and that a server marked for aisle 4 is mistakenly stored in aisle 6. A Microsoft agent would flag the error, send an email to a human warehouse manager, and wait. Macrohard also flags the error, but it instantly pings a physical Optimus robot on the factory floor. It transmits the coordinates, and the physical robot walks down aisle 4 to count the boxes on the pallet. It then continues to aisle 6, picks up the server using a lift if required, and moves it to the correct aisle. It then briefs its digital sibling, which updates the spreadsheet and closes the ticket. Vertically integrated end-to-end automation, from the digital spreadsheet into the physical world and back again, with zero human intervention. Nobody else on planet Earth is even close to offering this. Now, to be fair, AI is progressing at breakneck speed. It is highly likely that competing agents from OpenAI or Anthropic will eventually be able to send instructions to third-party robots from Figure AI, 1X, and the like. But remember how in the cold shower chapter we showed that other companies could win sales over Macrohard by utilizing network effects and keeping customers within the same ecosystem? Here, that exact same dynamic works for Tesla, not against it. The importance of this cannot be overstated. Providing a one ecosystem, one vendor, zero integration digital physical solution is a powerful 1-2 punch. The technology is alien, the architecture is brilliant, and the potential is world-changing. But there is a catch, a massive one, because the race for AI supremacy is no longer just about who writes the best code or who designs the smartest chip. We have hit a physical wall, a bottleneck so severe that it is currently paralyzing the biggest tech companies in the world. In the next chapter, we are going to pivot from software to physics. We are going to look at the true limiting factor of artificial intelligence and how Tesla engineered a brute force bypass that will leave their competitors stranded in the dark. Chapter 3, the hidden bottleneck, the physics of AI. Up until now, we have been talking almost entirely about software. We've talked about visual agents, Kahneman's psychology, and physical robots. But software is just code. To run that code, you need hardware, and to run that hardware, you have to face the unforgiving reality of physics. Right now, the entire tech industry is treating the AI arms race like it's a chip shortage. It isn't. Look at where the puck's going, and the bottleneck isn't silicon. The bottleneck is electricity. Companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are buying hundreds of thousands of Nvidia GPUs. But you cannot just plug a 1 gigawatt data center into a standard wall outlet. You need massive high-voltage transmission lines, you need dedicated utility substations. Let's look at xAI's own Colossus supercluster in Memphis. Right now, running 100,000 GPUs draws roughly 200 to 300 megawatts. As they scale to their next-generation architecture, they are targeting 1 gigawatt of continuous power. That is the equivalent of a medium-sized city or a full-scale nuclear reactor just to power one data center. In the United States right now, the regulatory permitting, environmental reviews, and physical construction required to connect a new hyperscale facility of that size to the grid takes anywhere from 4 to 7 years. You can buy all the GPUs in the world, but pretty soon, those chips are going to start piling up in warehouses with not enough turbines and transformers to provide the power to turn them on. And this completely flips the economic reality we discussed in Chapter 1. Remember that brutal price war we discussed? The deflationary trap where the price of a digital worker crashes to the absolute bottom because several competitors exist, each capable of spawning millions of additional workers? Here is where the macroeconomics get incredibly fascinating. If the electrical grid simply cannot support new centralized data centers, that race to the bottom might actually stall. When demand for AI is exploding but the supply of compute is physically constrained by the power grid, compute prices stop falling. They stabilize or even go up. In a supply-constrained market, the winner isn't just the company with the cheapest compute. The winner is the company that actually has available compute. And that is where Tesla just pulled off one of the greatest infrastructural bypasses in modern history. Tesla doesn't need to wait 5 years for a government permit to build a massive, centralized 1 gigawatt data center. Why? Because they already have 7 gigawatts of approved grid-connected power distributed across their supercharger network worldwide. That's 7 gigawatts and rapidly growing. To put that into perspective, 7 gigawatts is the peak capacity of 7 fully expanded next-generation Colossus data centers. And Tesla is adding roughly 1.5 gigawatts of new grid capacity every single year. They are effectively bringing a new hyperscale data center online every 10 months, completely under the radar, masked as auto infrastructure. Now, to be fair, that 7 gigawatts is the total peak installed capacity for EV charging. And superchargers see intermittent use. But that intermittency is exactly the point. Elon Musk recently announced they will take advantage of this by deploying dedicated digital Optimus AI units directly in the field at Tesla's supercharger stations. By installing dedicated AI-4 and AI-5 compute racks directly at these superchargers and pairing them with megapacks, Tesla captures the stranded power. They draw energy during off-peak hours or when local solar is overproducing, store it in batteries, and help flatten the grid's notorious duck curve. Instead of stressing the grid like a massive centralized data center, they act as a stabilizing virtual power plant. They are essentially unlocking a massive decentralized data center with 0 years of permitting lead time and $0 of new transmission infrastructure. But as an engineer, I have to point out a paradox here. Building a massive, centralized data center is highly efficient because you can share one giant, optimized liquid cooling system across tens of thousands of servers. Deploying thousands of standalone AI server racks in supercharging locations, however, requires thousands of inefficient, localized mini HVAC cooling units. Worse, while data center maintenance is highly optimized and on-site, fixing a thermal unit on one site and replacing a malfunctioning board on another requires miles upon miles of driving, with suboptimal replacement conditions. From a pure thermodynamics perspective, as well as a maintenance point of view, it sounds like a terrible engineering compromise. Building and maintaining thousands of small air conditioners is vastly more expensive and less efficient than building and maintaining one big one. So why would Tesla do it? Because in a severely power-constrained world, time to market beats cooling efficiency. Paying the CapEx penalty to build localized servers with separate autonomous cooling units is a necessary brute force tactic to completely bypass a half-decade of government gridlock and a shortage in power generation, transmission, and conversion hardware. They are trading the thermal efficiency of a centralized data center for the sheer agility of distributed power. If you want to see the exact math on this, how that localized cooling capex eats into Tesla's margins, and exactly how a supply-constrained market alters the deflationary price curve for Tesla's EBITDA, I've put the baseline Excel model out for my Patreon patrons, YouTube channel members, and ex-subscribers. Links in the comments below. And if you manage a fund or you need institutional-grade data, I am currently launching Iron Dot Research, a boutique engineering-based analysis service focused on Tesla and disruptive technologies. Subscribers will get my full assumptions, a detailed breakdown, deep sensitivity analysis, and a fully interactive model to stress test your own theories. For details, DM me on X at connecting-o-dots. While the supercharger racks are a brilliant brute force hack to capture commercial power, they are just the appetizer. To truly dominate, Tesla needs to tap into the largest, most underutilized power grid on the planet. And to do that, we now need to look at the harsh acoustics of thermal management, the engineering secret that makes the money-printing personal car feasible, and the Trojan Horse Tesla has started building to dominate the AI economy. Chapter 4. The Humming Car and the Cybercab Secret. If you spend any time on X or YouTube, you have probably heard the ultimate pitch for Macrohard. Your Tesla is a money printer. It will make you rich while you sleep. The theory goes that you park your Tesla in the garage, plug it in, and opt into the compute fleet. Tesla uses your car's AI4 or AI5 chip to process corporate tasks overnight, and you wake up to a deposit in your account. Free money, with no need to let strangers into your car and to accumulate thousands of extra miles on your odometer as in the robo-taxi model. It sounds like a flawless business model. From Tesla's perspective, the hardware is completely free. The car owner already paid for the computer, the cooling system, the battery, and the networking hardware when they bought the vehicle. Utilizing unused hardware like this could be a huge win-win, but this is where spreadsheet logic collides with the laws of physics. Let's look at the acoustic reality of thermal management. The upcoming AI5 chip is incredibly efficient, but running intense, sustained inference workloads at full capacity still draws roughly 250 watts. To dissipate 250 watts of continuous heat inside a parked car, you need active cooling. You have to run the liquid cooling pumps, and you have to spin up the radiator fans. In a quiet suburban neighborhood at 2 in the morning, a car running full compute sounds like a humming vacuum cleaner. To the owner, it gives the impression that the car is constantly strained, raising fears this will shorten its lifespan or bring reliability issues. Moreover, most people are not going to accept a loud humming car echoing through their garage and vibrating the floorboards of their house every single night. There's an easy solution for this: thermal throttling. By limiting privately owned chips to lower computational loads or underclocking the CPU speeds, the chips generate significantly less heat. This enables running the radiator fans at low speeds, limiting the humming to a whisper, or keeping the car completely silent. This seems like a great solution, only there's a huge downside. For the same customer profit, Tesla gets much less compute. If an average privately owned Tesla on the compute fleet runs 10 hours a night at a throttled 60% load, that is only 6 hours of full capacity compute. Tesla needs 4 of these private owners just to equal the output of one fully loaded factory-owned CPU running 24/7. But acoustics and perceived wear and tear are only half the problem. The other half killing the private car model is the cost of electricity. To understand why, we have to split the private car opportunity into 2 different operational models. The first operational model is the fleet node. This is the scenario where Tesla pays you to use your car for corporate compute. But here is the engineering reality. Retail residential electricity in the United States averages around 17 cents per kilowatt hour, and in places like California, it can easily top 33 cents. Commercial wholesale power, the kind massive data centers buy, costs around 5 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's a hell of a difference. That massive premium is a fatal flaw. If Tesla uses your private car to do corporate work, the system has to pay for your expensive residential electricity, and it has to pay you a large enough profit margin to make it worth the hassle. When you add the high retail energy costs and the load throttling together, the free hardware benefit of the private car becomes a total myth. If the new AI5 boards cost Tesla roughly the same $650 as the current AI4, the math is brutal. Forget about the car making you rich. Even if owners agree to join the fleet for a measly $10 per month in pure profit, Tesla still has to pay 4 of them just to equal one dedicated node. The premium of retail electricity and those owner payouts wipes out the entire $650 savings on not making a CPU in less than a year. Even if you add in the cost of server racks and cooling, a dedicated company-owned node pays for itself in around 17 months. Tesla is mathematically much better off just printing a new AI board and sticking it in a commercial depot. Plus, they get total hardware uniformity and much better control over network quality. We'll see in a moment where the private fleet does make sense and how it can make you real money. But under normal circumstances, I wouldn't hold my breath for Tesla paying car owners to take part in the distributed network. However, that's not the only operational model we suggested for private cars, and the second operational model is completely different. Here, the car serves as your personal agent. Since the first operational model is economically flawed for corporate fleet work, the private car will mostly be used as a personal consumer product. Instead of Tesla paying you, you pay Tesla a monthly software subscription. You use the API-less UI to have the car do your own personal taxes, sort your overflowing inbox, or organize your family's travel spreadsheets. If Tesla does this, it could be a phenomenal consumer product driving high-margin software revenue for Tesla. But a consumer subscription for tax prep limited to Tesla owners can't be the backbone of a multi-trillion-dollar business-to-business revenue stream. So let's see what is. The answer is the ultimate Trojan horse, the Cybercab. This is where the business-to-business fleet actually lives, and it completely rewrites the economics of artificial intelligence. Cybercabs don't park in quiet residential garages. They are fleet-managed vehicles that park in massive commercial depots. These depots have access to cheap, wholesale industrial electricity. They have hardwired enterprise internet and dedicated 5G hubs. They don't have neighbors complaining about humming radiator fans at 3 a.m. And crucially, the cars already have massive automotive-grade liquid cooling systems built into them to handle the intense heat of driving and fast charging. The synergy here is staggering. Ride-hailing is a business of extreme peaks and valleys. You need a massive fleet to handle rush hour. But off-peak, like the middle of the night or mid-morning, there's little use for most cars. If Waymo ramps to meet peak demand, most of their cars will sit idle during those off-peak hours, destroying their ROI. Tesla's math is different. As I predicted in my video from May 2024, when demand drops, excess Cybercabs return to the depot, plug in, and start serving as nodes in a giant inference network. Now we know this will be Macrohard. Whether driving or parked, the cabs never stop earning. They seamlessly transition from moving people to moving data and back again. This off-peak computing revenue essentially subsidizes the vehicle. It radically shortens the ROI timeline for the Cybercab, allowing Tesla to either quickly cover the capex and produce additional vehicles to conquer the ride-hailing market, or slash ride-hailing fares to a level that Waymo and Uber physically cannot match without going bankrupt. And there is one final brilliant engineering secret hiding inside this Cybercab strategy: burn-in validation. We know the Cybercab is launching with AI-4 hardware, but when the massive AI-5 upgrade arrives, it won't go straight into the mass-market Model 3 and Model Y lines. You cannot halt a global auto production line. You have to stockpile hundreds of thousands of boards first to ensure a clean manufacturing cutover. So where do the first tens of thousands of AI-5 chips go? They go into the supercharger racks, and they go into the commercial Cybercabs. Why? For 2 reasons. First, production scaling. Tesla requires a clean, fleet-wide cutover for the high-volume Model 3 and Y to avoid Osborning sales of cars produced with AI-4 once AI-5 already arrives. Deploying AI-5 into Cybercabs and supercharger racks carries no such marketing downside. Second, the stationary stress test. Running heavy, continuous digital Optimus workloads every single night acts as a massive stress test. Tesla can run 100% compute loads on these brand new neural processing units in a perfectly safe, parked environment. They get to validate the thermal integrity and the silicon reliability of the new AI hardware while generating revenue, before they ever trust that same silicon to drive autonomously at 70 miles per hour with a human family inside. So the Cybercab is the heavy infantry. But let's return to your driveway. Is the dream of the money-printing personal car truly dead? Not if we apply the macroeconomic rules from the last chapter. If we assume that the electrical grid becomes the ultimate bottleneck, the game changes. In a severely supply-constrained market, the race to the bottom price war gets canceled, with digital worker margins remaining high. And in that scenario, tapping into privately owned cars opens an entirely new, massive power supply. Residential homes. When enterprise demand vastly outstrips centralized data center supply, companies will gladly pay a premium for a digital employee, which far exceeds the cost difference between retail and commercial supplies. This flips the entire financial model on its head, not just because there's enough pie for both Tesla and the owner of the car, but also because the alternative cost for Tesla stops being making a new chip and running it on cheaper electricity without splitting the revenue. It's losing the sale, because all electricity available to Tesla is already utilized elsewhere. If you want to see exactly how these numbers play out, and how the feasibility of using privately owned cars completely changes with and without the limited power assumption, consider supporting me on YouTube, Patreon, or X, as I will explain the analysis with greater detail to all channel patrons. Iron Dot Research subscribers will get much deeper analysis, with sensitivity tests and an interactive model to test their own assumptions. But how does all this translate to the bottom line? In the next chapter, we are going to run the final financial math. We will look at why Microsoft's centralized strategy is a financial time bomb, and how Tesla's marginal cost advantage allows them to win over competition in the ultimate race to the bottom. Chapter 5. The two-tiered future. We have talked about the software, we have talked about the physics of the energy grid, and we have talked about the hardware economics of the Cybercab versus your private garage. But to understand why Macrohard is the ultimate endgame for Tesla, we have to pull all of this together and look at the actual math of how this market will evolve. Because the AI labor market is not going to be a straight line. It is not just going to be a race to the bottom. It is going to split into two very distinct, very different tiers. Tier 1 is the commodity grind. This is the market for basic, repetitive, low-skilled digital labor. When every major tech giant on the planet, Google, Microsoft, Anthropic, Meta, floods the market with agents that can do basic data entry or standard customer service, the price of that labor detaches from the value it provides. It crashes. For these low-level jobs, we will see a brutal, relentless race to the bottom. That digital worker that cost $1,000 a month in 2026, by 2030, the market price could crash to roughly 25 cents an hour. That is about $180 a month for a 24/7, 365 worker, or around $45 a month for the 40-hour equivalent of a human worker. This is where the entire narrative flips. If you are Microsoft or Google, that 25 cents an hour is a financial time bomb. To run their agents, they have to buy Nvidia H100 or Blackwell GPUs that cost $30,000 to $40,000 a piece. They have to plug those chips into centralized data centers that took 5 years to permit and billions of dollars to build. And those chips are power-hungry monsters, drawing 700 to 1,000 watts of electricity each, requiring massive, expensive liquid cooling infrastructure. At 25 cents an hour, those cloud providers are bleeding cash. Their capital expenditures and their energy costs are simply too high to survive at the bottom of the market. But Tesla's marginal cost to produce 1 hour of digital labor approaches zero. By running ultra-efficient AI 5 chips on off-peak cybercabs fueled by wholesale power, Tesla can survive the 25-cent-an-hour bloodbath while their competitors go bankrupt if they try to compete. And because data center power is strictly limited, hyperscalers simply won't be able to compete at these prices. They cannot afford to waste their precious, constrained gigawatts on penny-pinching data entry. Utilizing their power supply for more premium workers, they will be forced to exit the commoditized market, leaving Tesla more room to breathe and enabling them to make real profit as a volumetric monopoly. Moving up from commoditized jobs, we reach Tier 2, the premium market. Here, workers don't compete by who would do the job for the absolutely lowest price, and more by the value they bring. When it comes to high-value jobs, legal research, high-level coding, architectural design, or financial planning, the quality and skill of the employee drastically affects the output. In the real world, companies don't just hire the cheapest lawyer, they pay a massive premium for the best one. The exact same logic applies to digital workers. In this tier, companies will gladly pay thousands of dollars a month for the absolute best results. It is not just a matter of cost, it's a matter of trust and reliability. Think about Microsoft Office. Today, companies willingly pay Microsoft hundreds of dollars per employee per year for this software, even when free, open-source alternatives exist. They pay for ecosystem integration and proven standards. If you can prove the quality of your results, you get the clients. Because the number of desk jobs is practically endless, and different companies will enter the market at different stages with different specialized skills, the premium market will likely form oligopolies. One sector might have bots from Anthropic and Google competing, in another Google and Macrohard would be the main players, while a third would be completely dominated by Macrohard. It will take years for any one company to cover all bases. But here is the ultimate checkmate. Even in this high-priced premium tier, Tesla's physics-based monopoly still wins. If a company like Microsoft charges $5,000 a month for a top-tier digital financial analyst, they have to dedicate massive, expensive cloud GPU clusters to run it 24/7. Between high hardware depreciation, specialized cooling, and massive data center energy draws, their margins are constantly squeezed by the sheer cost of their infrastructure. If Tesla charges that exact same $5,000 a month, because it runs on a sunk-cost, off-peak Cybercab, their only marginal cost is a few dozen dollars in wholesale electricity. Their profit margin is nearly absolute. In a way, this perfectly reflects how Tesla engineers its physical cars. As Sandy Munro often points out, wherever possible, Tesla obsessively assigns several responsibilities to each component. Take the Cybertruck's front crossbeam. Normally, this would have been used merely as a stiffening member for the chassis. Instead, Tesla uses it as the mounting point for the truck's cooling system and hollows it out to serve as the air tank for the air suspension. Doing this reduces the number of parts required. It makes the vehicle lighter, cheaper, and eliminates assembly steps, which means fewer factory robots are needed. That lighter weight also increases efficiency, which means a smaller battery is required for the same range, creating a massive compounding loop of cost and weight reduction. Macrohard is simply this exact same first principles engineering applied to the entire fleet. The Cybercab is no longer just a taxi. It is a multi-purpose asset that generates revenue across two completely different industries. Tesla doesn't have to slash prices to win. Their superior underlying cost structure gives them an infinite war chest to outspend, outmarket, and outdevelop the competition, all while tapping into a constrained power grid that Microsoft cannot access. And finally, we have to talk about a moonshot. While some remain skeptical, many experts believe that AGI, artificial general intelligence, could arrive as early as 2029. While we don't know who will win the race to AGI, remember Tesla's video edge from Chapter 2? There is an entire school of AI research that believes reaching true AGI requires spatial reasoning, the ability to have vision and act on the real world just like humanoid robots. By processing continuous video instead of static text, Tesla is actively building that exact cognitive foundation, which could help accelerate the company on the way towards AGI. And regardless of whether AGI is reached, by pairing superhuman reasoning with an agent that dynamically processes live video feeds instead of taking static screenshots, its capabilities multiply. A video-native agent doesn't just read data, it perceives momentum, anticipates complex UI animations, and interacts with the physical world through robots. If Tesla is even in the ballpark of AGI, that continuous video architecture becomes a devastating advantage in the high-tier market. It allows them to automate complex, real-time workflows that static, screenshot-based competitors simply cannot touch. But intelligence is only half the battle. Whether we are talking about lower-tier, cheap, commoditized data entry, or higher-tier, premium, superhuman capabilities and AGI, running these models requires raw power and hardware. While competitors pay Nvidia through the nose for AI chips, Tesla not only makes their own, they also get the hardware essentially for free by deploying underutilized off-peak cybercabs and privately owned cars. And while competitors' growth is severely bottlenecked by energy availability, Tesla's growth is fueled by untapped wholesale power at their superchargers and by skimming off the distributed residential grid. By completely circumventing the data center grid bottleneck, Tesla has built an infrastructure that competitors physically cannot replicate. In the final chapter, we are going to wrap this up, and I want to hear your thoughts on exactly how this will play out in your own driveway. Chapter 6, the last company standing. And by the way, I'm expecting a new Tesla product. We've discussed the software, we've discussed the physics of the energy grid, and we've discussed the hardware economics of your private garage versus the Cybercab. But to understand why Macrohard is the ultimate endgame for Tesla, we have to pull all of this together and look at the actual math of how this market will evolve. Because the AI labor market is going to play out across two very different battlefields. In the commodity tier, after a brief honeymoon period of high margins, we will get a brutal race to the bottom. By 2030, every major tech giant will have flooded the market. When the price of a basic digital worker crashes to mere pennies per hour, Microsoft and Google will bleed cash trying to run $30,000 GPUs inside billion-dollar data centers. Tesla, utilizing hyper-efficient AI-5 chips on pre-cooled cybercabs running on off-peak wholesale power, will remain profitable at prices others will not be able to sustain. When push comes to shove, they will be the last company standing. In the premium tier, for complex AGI-level jobs, quality dictates price, and margins will remain astronomical. And in that high-priced arena, energy becomes the ultimate hard-limiting factor. When enterprise demand explodes, but centralized data center supply is choked, Tesla wins on sheer volume. By tapping into residential driveways and the 7-gigawatt supercharger network, Tesla will be able to add the equivalent of a dozen additional Colossus superclusters right when its competitors are hopelessly constrained by the grid. And here's where things take an unexpected turn, because while finalizing the script, it suddenly dawned on me, Tesla is about to launch a new product which nobody is expecting. I can't delay this video, and I don't want to spoil the news on what should be a massively important product for Tesla, so I'll soon make a short video focusing on this game-changing product alone. Until then, this picture is the only hint I'll give. Give your guesses in the comments below, and since my videos don't arrive at a consistent schedule, make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss it. When you look at the big picture, there is a lot of hype about Macrohard, but there are also many headwinds going against it. Enterprise friction, security concerns, and the massive head start of established tech giants. Normally, a company entering the enterprise software space this late should become a mid-pack player, far from being the leader. But with huge vertical integration, unique vision-based capabilities, native integration with physical Optimus robots, and teaming smart first principles engineering with an obsessive passion for removing roadblocks expected years down the road, Tesla has positioned itself to win. I am all in. How about you? So, will Tesla dominate the digital labor market, or will the friction of enterprise sales keep them locked out? Will Tesla utilize privately owned cars, or are company-controlled units the only real solution? And will energy shortage delay all others, while Tesla continues charging ahead? Let me know below. If you found this video valuable, please hit that like button, and if possible, share it online. It really helps the channel grow. If you want to see the exact model on this, how the retail versus wholesale electricity gap alters the private car model, and exactly how a supply-constrained market shifts Tesla's EBITDA, I'll show my baseline Excel model to all my patrons on Patreon, YouTube, and X. There are links below, from only $2 a month. But if you manage a fund or you need institutional-grade investment data, I am currently launching Iron Dot Research, a boutique, engineering-based analysis service. Subscribers will get my full assumptions, a more solid breakdown, deep sensitivity analysis, and a fully interactive model to stress test your own theories. For more details, DM me on X at ConnectingODots. Here's a small example of what you should expect. 2 weeks ago, Elon revealed that Tesla and SpaceX plan to build advanced chip factories in Austin. He announced that the companies expect their chip demand to surpass current global production, and that he expects to update chip designs every 10 months. But a video I posted November 2021, almost 4.5 years ago, already laid out that picture piece by piece. By analyzing Tesla's future plans, I reasoned that as Optimus production ramps, Tesla would start producing their own chips. The reason for that was owning the full stack, vertical integration, and risk mitigation by having more control over their own destiny. I saw Tesla producing as many chips as the entire global chip industry combined. And at these numbers, making their own chips was a no-brainer. Moreover, I raised a moonshot that Tesla would try to disrupt chip production via a new manufacturing method, aimed at reducing costs, but mostly the lead time required for making new chips. Current lead time is horrible, the technology is ancient, there must be a better way. 4.5 years later, Tesla started going exactly along this way. My viewers knew this and many other developments first, and Iron Dot Research will provide similar predictions with deeper analysis, implications, and tools to interactively test your own assumptions. There are many other examples. Additional details when I launch, or DM me on X. A massive thank you to my latest patrons, SB, Marvin VH, Bertram B, Peter G, Dr. W, Jamak22, Eugene W 2279, Fat and Happy 1498, Christian B Lageek, Stephen S 310. Thanks guys, this really helps keep the channel going. And to all my patrons, you guys rock. Don't forget to visit nordvpn.com/dots to get an exclusive deal with 4 months extra to protect your online activity. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Come follow me on X, where I am connecting dots. Until next time, I am connecting the dots, and you are amazing.
When you're up against the wall and you cannot fall, so go on, go on.